If you're anything like me, making change can be hard, and it's not always easy, and it's not always going to go in the exact way that you think it's going to go, especially in the world of social media where everybody puts everything out in the open and we watch their lives and we see these things and they look like they're just, snap of the fingers, super easy. And, how come things look so easy for them? Well, it's probably not super easy for them, first of all. Second of all, if it is, right, there may be other things that they're struggling with. But I want to talk a little bit more about that today on the Cultivating Calmness podcast. So stick with me and we will talk more about this. I know I talk about change and I talk about things like this all the time. And I try to talk about things at different angles and different ways of looking at change. We're all trying to make changes, whether they're maybe seen as little things or really big changes in our life. Some are wanted, some are unwanted. Some are maybe needed but unwanted, in any way, shape, or form or version in between. And when it comes to doing things differently in your life, it is a process. So I've had people in my office where we're talking about making lifestyle changes. We see that there's a problem and we see that the solution or a potential solution or a potential change is over here. But the change we're being asked to make it maybe seems astronomical. For some, it's, a coffee, right? Maybe I need to stop drinking coffee, but I love coffee. I didn't start drinking coffee personally until I think I was like 25 or 6. I had tried it, like sips of it, never liked it. Coffee was never my thing. I went on a vacation with some family and then I found the creamer and sugar. So it was really more like coffee with my cream and sugar, but I was no coffee connoisseur. So when people would tell me they could taste the this and the that in the coffee, same way with wine, and other things where you taste it and you smell it and you taste different things. It was never my thing. To me, it was like, it's just coffee. Now, I love the sugary drinks and the mochas with all the fancy stuff in it. That was my thing. I loved those things. But for me, at some point, I realized that there were certain places that sold coffee that I couldn't have. It caused a rash on my body. And then recently I realized it wasn't just that company. It seemed to be all coffee at this point. So I haven't had coffee since April. And, for me, it wasn't super difficult to give up coffee. I have found like alternatives that I like and that works for me. For other people, giving up coffee may be a really difficult thing to do. Maybe you could say they're addicted. Maybe they need the caffeine. Maybe it's been part of their life for decades, right? Whatever it is for you, whatever your coffee is, trying to stop doing that may be difficult. So when we talk about making that type of change, again, fill in the blank with whatever your coffee is. I'm just going to continue to use this example. Start small. So I had a client who was having like one of the whatever they're called, really large coffees at Starbucks. And it had all the sugar in it and it had extra espresso shots in it and it had all the stuff. But we were already dealing with anxiety and we were already dealing with other potential issues that may have been potentially coming from the coffee, or at least the coffee was not helping, right? So the suggestion was, well, we could stop coffee. And that was like asking somebody just to stop breathing, right? So I was like, okay, All right, well, let's start smaller than that, right? We are going to, with the ultimate goal of maybe seeing if we can get to no coffee, but that's down the road, right? That's not necessarily next week either. That may be weeks or months or a year down the road, but let's just start small. So instead of getting the biggest one, what if we get the next one down? That's it, right? That's the change. So if every time you go to Starbucks, you get the biggest one and you're working on changing it, maybe you get the next one down. Or if you always get the frou-frou drink, maybe instead of getting the frou-frou drink with all the stuff in it, you just get a regular coffee with some cream and sugar in it, right? And maybe a little flavor or something, right? It's how can we transition that? How can we cut it back a little bit to make it not as big as it is now? And then, you have some incremental goals. Okay, we'll do this for 2 weeks, and then we'll do the next phase, and we'll do that for 2 weeks, and we'll do the next phase, until you get to the point where, you're maybe going to Starbucks and you're ordering tea instead of coffee, right? So you don't necessarily have to change that habit. It doesn't have to be I stop drinking something completely. Although, if that's what you're working on, then that may be something you are working on. But in this case, it's just, I can't have coffee. The coffee may be causing me problems. Well, what are we going to do to transition out of coffee and into something else? And that's how I want you to think about your changes, right? You go to see your therapist, you go to see your doctor, your chiropractor, your massage, your PT, your fill in the blank, your teacher, and they all have tasks for you, something you need to work on. And sometimes the work, at least in therapy, is, I say for some people, is just even recognizing that the problem exists. So maybe you come in and we are talking about things and you don't even recognize that ABC is happening. So my goal would be like, well, first I need you to recognize that this is happening to you on a daily basis, that you are having these types of thoughts, that you are taking these types of actions. And when you can come back and you can tell me about how like, oh yeah, I caught myself doing, or I noticed I did, and I noticed that, and I noticed how that felt. Great, right? That was the first step. Versus the first step being like, okay, you're doing this thing, you need to stop this thing, and you need to also do this thing, right? That's like multiple steps all on top of each other. And that can be really overwhelming, if not impossible for some people, depending on what it is you're going through and how difficult that thing is. For some people, they can do that, right? You tell them, they are like task oriented, they got it. They're like, okay, check, 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 check. I'm doing it all at once. For other people, it's like, that is way too much. So be honest with yourself, right? And be honest with who you're working with. So I've had people come in and, it's like the nod and agree and yep, I'll do that. Yep, I'll do that. And then week after week after week after week, like we're not doing it. At some point we have to say, okay, that's not happening. What's going on? Like, why aren't we doing it? Is there something getting in the way of that? For me, I try to have that conversation. Hey, make it your own. Make the transition your own, or make this coping skill your own. Here's my suggestion, but you make it work for you. Here are some other options. Here's what other people have done. But hey, if you come back next week and you're like, I didn't do it your way, but I did it this way, let's at least talk about it. Let's see, like, did it work? Was it helpful? Was it healthy? Is there anything we can tweak about it, right? Same thing with these types of transitions. Sometimes it's, hey, it's just too much. Like I'm not even at the place where I can recognize that I'm making that mistake, let alone like making a change and not doing it. So that informs me as your provider to take a few steps back myself and go, okay, all right, good point. Well, what if we did this instead, right? Then I can offer you other suggestions or other ways of trying to make that change. So with whoever you're working with, no matter, what type of provider they are. For me, obviously, I'm a therapist. I just encourage an open dialogue, a conversation. You're in a professional relationship with that person. So trying to inform them of like what's going on in your head and your life and your body, right? They only know what you tell them. So if there's things going on in the background that are just making those actions more difficult, there's no way for them to know that unless you tell them, and then they can work with you rather than like working against you on solutions to that problem. So I say it's a team effort, right? When you are going to see somebody, make it a team effort. ask them the questions, give them the information. It's a back and forth. And I can learn this myself in working with people that sometimes I just keep things to myself, but really sometimes those things can be helpful to share, can provide a little feedback so that you're not feeling like stuck in this place where like, oh, I can't do that because of A, but then B, and then they're going to be disappointed. And then like this and this, right? If there's only certain things you can do, there's only certain things you can do. I'd rather you be honest with me about it and with yourself so we can help you to make the progress that you're able to make. Another example might be that isn't the change that maybe we need to focus on right now. There's an exercise that I've done with people. I don't know that I've done it in a while. Is like a value sort or a values exercise. And one of the ways that I used to do this was to you make a pie. And so you have like 6, 8, 10 slices in the pie and you pick, your top, 8, let's say, values. And you can start with really broad things or you can get very specific. So broad things might be, family, friends, work, health, exercise, education, right? Those are broad subjects versus, if you broke each of those categories down, it's like, what about family do you value? What about your friendships do you value? What about education do you value? And then those could be their own things to work on. So you pick your 8 values, you put them in this circle. The center is 0. I'm doing terrible at this. The outer edge of the pie is I'm doing great, 100%, 10. And you kind of draw a line in each slice of the pie, right? So you have your little triangle and you're drawing a line. If you're down here, right, like I'm doing terrible in this area. If you're up close to the top, you feel like you're doing great in this area. It doesn't need a lot of work. And you do that for each area. So then if you look at your pie, the lines are typically like up, down, all over, and they don't line up. And imagine doing that and taking that pie wheel and putting it on your bicycle, right? You have one wheel that's great and you put the other wheel on and it's this jagged, bumpy thing. What is your ride going to be like? Right, just imagine, right? I'm riding this bike with this wheel that's all wonky shaped, right? It's not going to be a pleasant ride. It may be even impossible. You may not move anywhere. So when we're thinking about making changes, sometimes it's which area needs the most work right now, right? Maybe it's the lowest one, right? The one with the lowest bar. Maybe it's actually one that's, is kind of in the middle. I like to look at it as if I make a change in this area, right? It's kind of low. Is it going to have an effect in other areas too? So like sleep. Let's say if I wanted to work on sleep and I value my health, and that falls in their health category. And so I really want to make the change of like getting to bed earlier and getting a full 8 hours of sleep instead of like 5. Right? Well, that may take a transition time, but let's say you do that. Well, because I'm getting more sleep now, I'm able to wake up earlier. I'm able to be more productive in the morning instead of like dragging my feet. I'm able to get an exercise workout in that I normally don't do because I'm like tired in the evening and then I don't want to do it. And because I do that, I'm like eating healthier. And because I'm doing that, I'm having more time for friendships. I'm having a better relationship with, my family members, etc. Right? It could be one change has a domino effect of other changes because you made that one singular change. So I also look at that. What change are you going to make that maybe you're going to get more bang for your buck, they say, where you're not necessarily having to make all the changes at once. I want to be healthier, so I need to sleep better. I need to eat better. I need to work out more. I need to lose weight. I need to. And so you're trying to do all of those things all at once, which some people can do, and I've tried to do, but I can tell you when you try to do all the things at once, it can be really overwhelming. It can feel like a lot. And in some ways, that's a good thing, right? You're trying to make a lifestyle change, a change that's going to happen, and you want to see yourself in a different place. You want your life to look different. It's going to take lots of change to do that, but is it sustainable? Am I able to keep it up, right? The coffee thing. If I were to say I go from a large venti, I don't know what they're called, large coffee to a no coffee, am I going to be able to sustain that for a long period of time? Or am I going to do it for 2 days and I'm going to give up and I'm going to go back to doing it because it was too much for me at this time? So you want to think about what changes are going to be sustainable. What things are you going to be able to do? What things can you do to set yourself up for success with these changes? So, making change isn't always about just gritting and bearing it and doing it. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is. I am not a morning person. I've never been a morning person. But I also have learned over time that that affects your hormones, and that could be a cortisol issue, right? And so if you're trying to be able to get to bed earlier and wake up earlier and get more sleep, but you're always wide awake at midnight or 1 o'clock, what's the issue? What's going on there? What maybe is causing that to happen? And you have to think about, are you going to be able to sustain that? Are you going to be able to keep doing the change? So if you are used to going to bed at midnight, you may bump that by a half hour, right? And then a half hour and then a half hour. Or are there other things you could be doing, right? Is it eliminating screens? Is it taking certain supplements that help to get your body down? Is it doing some of the grounding and watching the sun set? Is it not eating past a certain time? Is it doing your exercise in the morning versus in the evening? Because then you do your exercise in the evening and your body's all like, I'm awake now. For some people, it has that effect. Right. So there may be other slight changes that go along with the bigger change. I want to get to bed earlier. Okay, well, because I want to get to bed earlier, I may have to make these other changes to make the going to bed earlier work. So all of this to say is that change is not easy. It's usually more of a gradual process, not I'm going from 0 to 60 and I'm making the change all at once. It can work like that for some people, but if you're seeing that in your friends, you're seeing that in your social media feed, and you're not able to do it, that's okay. You may not be able to do that right now. That may be someplace you're going to be. That's okay, right? That doesn't mean that you're a failure. That doesn't mean that that making that change is impossible for you. It just means that it's going to look a little different for you than it is for these other people you're witnessing. And just remember, right? Just because you see something doesn't mean that what you're seeing is all it's cracked up to be, right? The whole walk a mile in somebody else's shoes thing, right? Just because somebody looks like they have it all together doesn't mean they have it all together. They're putting on a good show for you, and it looks good, but behind the curtains, behind the scenes, things aren't as great as they're made out to be. Okay. So don't compare yourself to somebody else's journey, your journey to someone else's journey. That steals your joy, right? Comparison is the thief of joy. I don't know who said it. But it's true. When we start to compare, we go, oh, I wish I had, I wish I could, I wish I did, I wish mine, right? We're not then acknowledging what we do have and what we have the capability and ability to have and do ourselves. It's always this wishful thinking about other people. Yeah. So change is hard. We're all doing it. We all make changes, again, whether little bitty changes or really big changes. You name it. We're out there doing it. And it's not easy, but give yourself incremental steps. I'm a visual person. So, I think of a ladder or the stairwell. If I'm in my basement and I'm looking at trying to get to the first floor, I'm not going to go from step 1 to step 12, right? My legs aren't long enough. I'm not going to be able to do that. I'm not even going to be able to jump up and grab on and pull up and do it. Okay. You're going to have to take one step at a time. You got to build the steps as we go. And sometimes we take steps back before we take steps forward. And that happens in all kinds of areas. We do better, and then maybe something happens, or just that's the next level. We plateau. And then we got to go up some more steps, so we plateau. And then maybe something, it doesn't go so well, and we go back down, right? That's okay. That's your journey. Focus on your journey, not everybody else's journey, and do it one step at a time in what works for you. And yes, it may take a little longer than you would like, but remember, it's taken you however many weeks, months, or years to get to where you are today. The change isn't going to happen overnight. What they say, Rome wasn't built in a day. Your change is going to happen in a few short weeks. Oftentimes, it's going to take time. Give yourself grace. Give yourself time. Have patience with yourself and the process. You'll get there. And you'll find the other things that are helpful in between, as my clients and I often do as we're working through things with them. So I hope you had a wonderful week and a wonderful rest of your week. It's hump day, so just a few more days to go till the weekend, and I'll see you again next week.